The Minnesota Timberwolves took out the Los Angeles Lakers, beat LA, beat LA, beat LA. Last night in Crypto Arena, whatever they call their place in Los Angeles, the Minnesota Timberwolves went hunting for the Los Angeles Lakers, and it was a grind, but they took them out. The Minnesota Timberwolves, when you look at the resume that they have had taken out so-called legends, Kevin Durant, Jokic, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, the king, LeBron James. You can call the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards legend killers. Legend killers. Now, I hate to do this, man. This really hurts my soul. This really hurts my soul, UP Nation. Because you guys know how much of a KG fan I am. I used to roll with KG back in the day when we used to do the Flip Saunders basketball camps, when we were traveling all over the state of Minnesota together. Me, KG, Flip, my guy Dave Milkey, all the guys back in the Timberwolf offices. Those were my boys back then. So I have fond memories of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I have fond memories of KG, down to earth brother. KG went on to have a great career here in Minnesota. But man, it's time to start having a conversation that I've just been contemplating that I just don't want to have because of my fondness for KG. But we got to have this conversation, UP Nation. It's time to have that conversation now, being that the Lakers have gone fishing. And again, another back-to-back successful playoff season where now the Minnesota Timberwolves aren't just happy with making the playoffs or getting into the play-in game. They are advancing. They are surviving and advancing. And a lot of it has to do with Anthony Edwards and what he's done with this franchise. So the question becomes now, you've got to have the conversation, who is the GOAT? Kevin Garnett has always been heralded as the GOAT when it comes to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Nobody can touch KG. We've had some great players like Pooh Richardson that started it off. J.R. Ryder, Junior J.R., Junior Ryder. Kevin Love. Wally Zerbiak. I mean, we've had some names, but everybody pales when you mention the name Kevin Garnett. Until now. UP Nation. Oh, UP Nation. Until now. Man, you can argue a lot of things about Anthony Edwards and the fellas, but they are dismantling really good teams. They fell short against the Dallas Mavericks last year. But look at the resume, man. Phoenix and Kevin Durant and Jokic last year, Denver on their home floor. People say the altitude was going to get to him. No, Ant is hungry. And now, this year, up and down, they make the big trade for Julius Randle. They move Cat to Madison Square Garden in New York. And now the Minnesota Timberwolves have advanced to the Western Conference semifinals, dispatching two legends, Luka Doncic and Kevin Garnett. Now let's look at their career. Let's just look at a career overview of Kevin Garnett and Anthony Edwards. Kevin Garnett played 21 seasons, 12 of those in Minnesota. People forget that KG actually came back after he left Boston when Karl Anthony Towns was a baby. And he came in to be a mentor to Karl Anthony Towns. A lot of people forget that era. KG was old. It's weird to think of, the high schooler coming to the Minnesota Timberwolves as old, but he was at that time. You're looking at KV that he's a NBA MVP, something that Ant has not accomplished yet, but he's on the brink. He's on the brink. 15-time All-Star, the kid, big ticket, whatever name you want to put on there, 15-time All-Star. 9-time all defensive team for Kevin Garnett. That's a pretty good resume. That's a pretty good 15 All-Star appearances, 9 all defensive titles for KG. It's amazing. People forget about that. Anthony Edwards, 4 seasons and rising. He's an all-star. He's leading the current playoff run. He just had 40 the other night. Didn't play so well last night. Went a little cold from the field. Maybe took some shot selection. Wasn't the best. He had an ailing Luka Doncic on him that he didn't attempt to take him to the rack. Settled for jump shots, but that's neither here or there. He had 40 the night before. 40 the night before to get to this game. And he's the face of the franchise. So when you look at career overview, obviously KG played 21 seasons. You can't compare the full body of work. KG had more time in the league than what Ant has had so far. And you can't just dismiss an NBA MVP, 5 All-Star appearances, and 9 times all defensive. Let's check out some of the stats of the two UP Nation. Kevin Garnett, Wolves career averages 20 points per game, UP Nation. And this is just with the Minnesota Timberwolves, 20 points per game, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.6 block shots. That is Kevin Garnett's career averages with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards' 2024-2025 season, he averaged 26 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. Obviously, KG was 7 feet tall, so his rebounding stats are going to be a little bit better. And Anthony Edwards, if you watched him lately, he's improving his defensive prowess with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just putting all this stuff together and researching all this stuff, it makes you think, who's the GOAT? Who's the GOAT? Before there was even the fact that we're even talking about this right now lets you know how Anthony Edwards has been climbing. How did they impact team success? UP Nation, KG, 8 playoff appearances. 8 playoff appearances with Minnesota. 1 Western Conference final run. That was with Latrell Sprewell, Sam Cassell, and the boys. That was in 2004. Edwards right now is leading the Timberwolves to one of the best playoff stretches since the KG era. Let's not forget the time where they were in the playoff game a few years ago. Then they made the playoffs last year. Should have been the top seed. Kind of came up short down the stretch. Went to the Western Conference Finals. Got done by Luka Doncic. Almost made it to the final. This is one of the best playoff runs, best playoff stretches that the Minnesota Timberwolves have had. Remember, KG and Latrell Sprewell and the boys, they didn't come back to next year and make a run like they did. It was just one and done. Anthony Edwards is moving into the conversation because he is starting to do this thing chronically. The Timberwolves are starting to win playoff series and making it look easy. Like this is supposed to be stuff that we do every year. And that hasn't been that way with the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. With anybody, KG, Kevin Love, Isaiah Ryder, Wally Zerbiak. All of a sudden, this kid gets injected into that organization and spurs life and energy. And now we're going to the playoffs every year and advancing every year. It's crazy, man. Who's elevated the team more around them? Kevin Garnett or Anthony Edwards? Man, it's a tough conversation. But the fact, UP Nation, that we're having this conversation, man, Anthony Edwards is coming. You got leadership and identity. You got Garnett. He's gritty. tough, intensity, and he was a culture setter, man. You knew that when you came to the Target Center and my boy KG was out there, you remember what he got in trouble for when he was getting ready for the playoffs. People got a little bit sensitive and they talked about, the war and stuff that was going on. And Kevin Garnett was talking about, we got to load up the clips. I got my hand grenades. I got my Uzis. He was rattling off everything that's the mindset that Kevin Garnett had. That's who he is. Anthony Edwards has that swag, man. He's got a little bit of charisma. Nothing really seems to bother that dude. No matter how bad it gets, he's always smiling and giggling in the press conference. Never seems overwhelmed. He is a rising vocal leader. And, people say he's more fan friendly, I guess, man, but KG was no slouch in that department. KG was approachable to the fans. KG at the time was iconic. There was really nobody like him. He was a high school basketball player that came to a professional team and transformed it. So at that time, there was really no strong sense of social media. KG was approachable. A lot of people just didn't know it. Just didn't know it. Who has more magnetism in terms of being the face of the franchise, KG or Anthony Edwards? Man, these are all tough questions, and we've never had to ask these questions before. UP Nation, that lets you know that Anthony Edwards is coming. That's why I had to make the video. I didn't want to make the video. I've always thought of KG as being the guy when it comes to the Minnesota Timberwolves, man. But that dude, Anthony Edwards, is coming. There are some people right now that are saying that he is the GOAT of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And man, I used to just shut that stuff down. I can't shut it down any longer after what the Minnesota Timberwolves just did last year and what they did in the first round to the Los Angeles Lakers this year. Keep in mind, UP Nation, the experts out there gave the Timberwolves no chance. I didn't see anybody that picked the Minnesota Timberwolves to win that series, and they did it in 5 to LeBron and Luka Doncic. Oh my God. Oh my God. Legacy potential. Here's the deal. Kevin Garnett left the Minnesota Timberwolves. He left and he won a ring in Boston. So you can have a debate or argument when he goes into the Hall of Fame. It's good. Is he going to go in as a Celtic or a Timberwolf? That's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. He left and won a ring in Boston. So my question is, does that hurt his Timberwolves GOAT status because he left and won a ring somewhere else? I'm not throwing him under the bus for that. I'm just asking the question. Like he had to leave. It broke a lot of fans' hearts when he left and went to Boston to form probably the first big three, but he won a ring there. So you can't say that he made a bad decision, but he got a ring. So does that hurt the Minnesota Timberwolves GOAT argument? See, the question becomes, can Edwards do what KG didn't do in Minnesota? That means winning a title. And if Anthony Edwards wins a title, I think case is closed. Case is closed, UP Nation. A lot of people think case is closed now. But for Anthony Edwards to put a stamp on that, UP, it is a moot point to even have the discussion or the conversation about who's the GOAT for the Minnesota Timberwolves if Anthony Edwards gets that done. Who will be remembered longer as a Timberwolf? Man, see, I think this is even Steven in that department. I don't think anybody's going to forget Kevin Garnett. And as a matter of fact, I hope, since the ownership sale has gone through and it looks like it's going to be A-Raj and his boys, I think Kevin Garnett is going to be integrated back into the Minnesota Timberwolves family because he wasn't, let me say, he and Glenn Taylor weren't too different now that that ownership has gone into transition. I think KG is going to be around more. I remember everybody was looking for KG to come back during the playoff run last year. For one of our home playoff games against Denver, did not make it back, and there were reasons for that. But I don't think anybody's going to forget Kevin Garnett too quick, no matter what happens in terms of championships or what Anthony Edwards provides for this organization. KG is KG, the big ticket. But that dude, Anthony Edwards, is a bad boy. He is a bad boy, man. Didn't even play well last night. And that team took out a legend. They're legend killers, man. They're legend killers. Put your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button. UP Nation, put your thoughts in the comments. Who is your GOAT right now? Is it Kevin Garnett? Remember, I think when people think of Kevin Garnett, it's a little bit skewed when it comes to wins and losses and what he did in terms of success and playoff success. I don't know if it stands up to Anthony Edwards right now and what the Minnesota Timberwolves have been able to accomplish under the circumstances. Kevin Garnett has gone to the playoffs 8 times. He had that one great Western Conference final run. Anthony Edwards has that as well. Who is your Minnesota Timberwolves GOAT? That is the question today. It's a hard one, man. Put your thoughts in the comments. I know people are going to get after me because I'm even bringing this up to the table, but we gotta. We gotta after last night. We gotta, UP Nation. KG or Anthony Edwards? Man, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Woo! Man, this has been Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, UP Nation, we will see ya when we see ya. Go!